Welcome back. So we've got our first poll of the day. If you're going to be entering the polls, please, in terms of the live stream, go to the stream page and you'll be able to support the polls and also the questions and answers today. The poll for today is, did you attend this event yesterday? So please get over to the polls and register a vote for that. Thank you. Also, we've got our Best Summit 21 VE quiz, which will be for the best virtual networker and offer you a £100 voucher. So you know what you need to do: get networking, get connecting, and building those connections for the industry. Next up, we have a speaker on, don't we, Liz?
We do indeed. So we're going to be talking to Andy Nicholls from Ricoh. He's going to be telling us about offboarding, reboarding, and boomerangs. So really looking forward to this. Hello, Andy. How are you?
Morning. Yeah, good. Thanks. To you?
Good, thank you. All good. The stage is yours.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. So morning. Welcome to my session. So I'm Andy and I'm the National TA Manager for Ricoh in Ireland. So reason really for my topic today is twofold. So, one is I'm passionate about people, how we really influence that candidate and colleague experience. And as you're all aware, sort of COVID, it's meant we've all faced new challenges. And one of those is having a large number of colleagues potentially out of the business, not working. And so it's important that we look at ensuring their well-being and their successful reboarding back into our business. Some of those have been off for probably about a year now. So, You've got companies, they're boasting about great candidate experience, all the goodies you receive on day one. But what companies don't talk about is really their offboarding experience or the care and attention they pay to people who are returners after a spell away from the business. So really, we as businesses should be paying as much attention to both our returner process and the off-boarder process as we do new joiners. And these elements, they need to be reviewed, they need to be analysed and really incorporated as part of our overall recruitment and HR strategy. So today, more than ever, candidates are looking at other reasons to join or not to join a company. It's not just about the financial rewards anymore. It's going to be about flexibility, work from home, values, CSR, family-friendly policies, D&I focus. How many companies are just sort of putting a D&I reference on their website, but not actually doing anything about it? How many are talking about equal ops in recruitment, but not actually analysing data and identifying areas of concern or bias. And then you've got companies who are boasting about flexibility, remote working, but then stipulate a location on an advert. It's how we empower our people is our greatest asset. So how we treat them in their journey is key. And that's from when they first become aware of us as a business right through to after they have left us. So these elements should all be factored in when we're looking at our overall strategy, how they are treated and how they are communicated with at all stages. So candidate experience has got a huge focus for companies. Increasingly businesses are shouting about, how employee centric theirs are, technology, onboarding platforms, buddy initiatives, spending money on cool swag, trying to create a wonderful onboarding experience. They've incorporated ways to help reduce and replace, that admin heavy processes. There's a growing focus to really provide new employees with that emotional element, looking at satisfying the emotional requirements of new joiners, but whilst also reducing that manual internal admin of that onboarding journey. But are we seeing the same investment, the same focus, the same importance when we look at offboarding our colleagues? In reality, the same attention should be applied to the leaving process, where there's also a large element of admin compliance, their processes, but just as importantly, probably more so, a huge amount of emotional aspects involved. So offboarding, it's the process that leads to the formal separation between an employee and a company. That encompasses all the decisions, all the conversations, and all the processes that take place when an employee leaves. So while onboarding and offboarding are the opposite ends of a colleague's time with a company, are two different parts of an employee's journey, they need to be similarly executed. Every company is different, different sizes, different complexities, different headcount opportunities. But the more time, care, and attention that we take with these processes, the better the better experience our employees will have. Employees don't want their last day with a company to be a door slammed shut and a wave. We've got to acknowledge and be very aware that sometimes there is a huge amount of uncertainty, those emotional elements, conflicting thoughts when someone is leaving a business. Are they making the right decision? Are they leaving for the right reasons? Will they regret leaving? We really need to ensure we acknowledge these aspects and emotions and continue to demonstrate that to that leaving employee, but also to those colleagues staying, that we as an organisation still value them. So when an employee leaves, they can either become, an advocate or an antagonist. We're going to have those that will speak highly of us, will gladly refer new candidates, will still like and share our online content, will post positive reviews. But then on the other hand, we've got those that won't engage with our brand anymore. We'll not promote our vacancies through their networks. And perhaps worse still, they're the ones that are going to be jumping on Glassdoor and Indeed, detailing what people shouldn't join us. So offboarding is there for sort of a wonderful time and probably the last opportunity for us to turn those employees into advocates. If we start analysing and spending time reviewing and enhancing our offboarding experience, there potentially are so many benefits for us as businesses. So you get effective learning. It is a great opportunity to really identify any mistakes, any gaps for improvement, really. Anything negative that played a part in that person making that decision to move elsewhere. It potentially reduces the chances of any misunderstandings between the leaver and the company. It gives us the opportunity to nip anything in the bud that could linger after they've left. And that allows us to have that mutual ongoing relationship. It also gives us another opportunity to demonstrate to that employee that our business values our people, which goes a long way when we're actually looking to enforce our employer brand. Brand advocates. An ex-employee who has a positive experience with us is the most perfect person to sell benefits of a career with us. We'll get referrals. Our alumni know our culture. They know the roles we've got. So it could be a great source of high quality candidates, allowing us access to sort of top talent that may not have otherwise been available to us. There's the internal talent mobility. Business who use offboarding smartly can use it for retention and also for reattraction. There's market intel. Former employees can offer us ideas. If we stay connected to them, it gives us that chance to really learn what else is happening in the marketplace. And succession planning. Alumni in our network may be ideal for a role that does not exist yet, or one that could come up in the future. It's a great place for us to keep in touch and understand the kinds of experiences they're getting elsewhere on their sort of career journey as well. So we need to create and deliver a consistent employee-focused experience. That will essentially leave that leaver with a positive, lasting impression of our business. Listen to what they're saying. Exit interviews. They give us so much valuable information. They highlight themes that may be causing attrition elsewhere that we can then rectify. We should celebrate a departing employee's tenure with the company. Look at their achievements, their values, what have they done, and really sort of send them off with a positive feeling surrounding our business. And invest time in cultivating that mutually beneficial ongoing relationship. Companies are increasingly realizing the value of their alumni, and they're actually developing strategic approaches to enhancing ongoing meaningful relationships. So on to reboarding. The concept of bringing employees back to work who have been away for some period of time. This time last year, we hadn't heard of furlough, hadn't heard of COVID. And the idea of reboarding has been so much more relevant since COVID's hit. So, companies got huge numbers potentially of people out of the company for long periods of time. But it should not have needed COVID for companies to really invest time and effort in the reboarding process. Reboarding should be more than a COVID furlough related process. It's not just about furloughed returners. It's about those on parental leave. It's those who have taken sabbaticals. It's those on long-term sick and even those out on secondments. Being out of the business, there's so many factors that will affect how an individual is feeling. Disconnected from the business, disconnected from colleagues, lack of comms around business updates, and importantly, they may also feel anxious, anxious about their own return to work, anxious about, are they still capable of doing the job? Worried about what changes, have happened that could directly impact them since they've been away. It's kind of like starting a job all over again. There's going to be uncertainty and there's going to be anxiety. So when colleagues have been sort of absent from their role for a long period, we need to reintegrate them into the business. And it's not just about physically being back in an office. It's as much, maybe more so as, about that emotional reconnection. Especially if those returners have struggled while being away. They could have been struggling financially from furlough or reduced pay from maternity. It could be a well-being perspective. It could be medical if they've been on long-term sick. There are so many elements that could impact how someone feels about coming back to work. So we should see reboarding really as effectively rehiring our staff. It's a wonderful new opportunity to create another strong bond, to a chance to re-energize, to refocus, where we can really reinforce that emotional connection with that individual. And again, it demonstrates that we as a business, have our people at front of mind. So more so now, I say when we're looking at reboarding, an individual's well-being and their sense of inclusion is top priority. So when we're looking at reboarding, it needs to be a careful process. It needs to be gentle, but it needs to be really well planned. So we need to look at the comms. So we need to have clear comms channel with that individual, use it while they're away, and more importantly, more so, in the build up to their return. The comms should be frequent, and relevant. It can't just be a sort of a bombardment of messages, and news. We don't want to overwhelm them with too much information all at once. So, check in early, check in often, and really keep that personal connection and sort of two-way communication going. Make information easily available, centralise useful resources. Keep well-being at the forefront of mind and ensure this has a really big focus as part of that reboarding initiative. Be supportive, allow for individuals to be able to make contact with the right people easily and confidentially if need be. Importantly, tailor that reboarding information, ensure it is relevant to each individual circumstance. A colleague returning into an office environment, will have different needs, will need access to different information, different sort of restrictions that may exist when they're returning into a field-based remote role or even onto a client site. And focus on social connection. Build a social, engaging and interactive environment. Encourage your people to connect, reconnect, create friend groups, and a place to share stories and experiences, especially those experienced while they've been out on furlough. And importantly, really use the reboarding to reinvigorate a colleague's desire to work for you and your business. I think, from the onset, of COVID and the furloughs, we at Ricoh, we identified the need to look at the well-being of those individuals on furlough and out of the business. We wanted to make sure that they remain connected, ensure they had all the access, all the right information, give them one platform, one centralised, easy to access place, which meant they didn't have to keep logging onto work laptops or to get updates or information. So how we sort of approached it, the reboard was very much seeing it as an onboarding experience. we spoke to several onboarding suppliers to really understand their functionalities as an onboarding provider, with very much a view to utilize their capabilities around an onboarding platform and switch that functionality so we could gear it specifically for those on furlough. We wanted somewhere where we could signpost and update immediately. The information around COVID and furlough was ever changing, so we needed to be able to react instantaneously. Whereby we could detail, the business contacts for any queries, where we could provide access to, key business updates, and importantly, where we could clearly detail information relating to their ongoing good health and well-being. So we created the Ricoh Lounge. We work with Hollaroo, our technology partner, to really develop a platform that was easy to navigate, that provided all of the information that our colleagues needed to help with a safe and anxious-free return. Providing them with an anonymous voice if they had a question which, they wanted to ask confidentially, and whereby they could stay engaged with their work colleagues, their managers, and with us as a wider business. So one thing we have learned, I think, on the back of COVID is reboarding is a crucial element as part of our overall strategy. And yes, it was developed, to support furlough affected colleagues, but it's now going to exist to provide that same level of support to our wider community of out of the business colleagues, those on furlough, parental leave, long-term sick, or those out on secondments. Okay, so really sort of the final part of the session follows on from that sort of offboarding element, the boomerangs, and this concept has gained sort of a lot of momentum in recent times. Boomerang employees are those employees who decide to leave a business, but at some point in the future return to that business. There are numerous reasons why an employee might want to leave an organisation. And there's sometimes where it works well, and there's sometimes where it doesn't. But even if it does work out well for that individual, it doesn't necessarily mean that they do not want to come back to us in the future. Come back to us with new skills, come back having experienced new things, new projects, new ways of working. And companies on the whole are increasingly more open to this idea than ever before. Every company is different. Every hiring manager is different. Every circumstance is going to be different. And there'll naturally be some positives and negatives associated with the decision to hire a boomerang. But looking at the potential benefits for a company, even cultural fit potentially, that individual's already worked there. They know the culture of the business. They know, and we know how they work in our environment. They could really integrate back into their business, knowing what to expect very, very easily. Lower cost per hire. Obviously, not a reason to hire somebody, as you still want to hire the best person for the job, but it is a benefit. Average cost per hire is about circa 3K. If you've got high attrition, if you've got small budgets, or if you've got high growth plans, that's potentially a significant amount of money that you're spending as a business. Keeping close with your alumni, you'll be able to reduce your cost per hire. You'll have less agency usage. You'll have a more efficient TA team. There'll be reduced spend in your attraction channels. And potentially, it's going to be less time for that individual to get up to full productivity. On the same note, reduce time to hire. Every day you have an empty seat in your business could cost your organisation money. You might be lacking a salesperson who would otherwise be sort of generating revenue for your organisation. This is where boomerangs, can help. They're pre-approved talent, so you can often move them faster through that hiring process to reduce that time to hire. Importantly, they'll probably take your call if you parted on good terms and if you offboarded them well. You know them personally. You can make contact easily with them, have very open and honest conversations. They're not just a random stranger who's clicked apply to a job advert. So it is easy to reach out and have a relaxed and candid conversation with them. There's potentially shorter onboarding times. finding new talent it's just a start. They'll then need to be trained, fully onboarded. They'll also need to spend a lot of time with colleagues all around the business, which is a potentially expensive process. Importantly, you can benefit from new perspectives. Diverse workplaces are likely to be, more productive, more innovative. So we need to try to recruit people from a range of different backgrounds. And that also includes professional experiences. Whilst that former employee was away, it's likely they've picked up some new valuable experiences, some new ways of working, a fresh perspective, and we can benefit from that. Boost your brand. So, majority of candidates these days will check out a company's online presence, before submitting an application. They'll inevitably go into things like Glassdoor and Indeed and check you out. Rehiring a boomerang can actually boost your brand. It's a clear demonstration to individuals outside your business that employees generally enjoy working there. The fact they wanted to come back. And it also shows that you value relationships with your talent. So those are really, really desirable factors. And having a boomerang back can potentially help with your retention. It can definitely make those current employees think, appreciate their jobs and think, the grass is not always greener elsewhere. And on the back of that, companies have changed the way they think about former employees. You can see through the massive development of alumni platforms, companies aren't avoiding former employees anymore. They're instead proactively engaging with them. And TA is one of those reasons for that investment. Incorporating those boomerangs back into your overall recruitment strategy, it's a really good starting point. Create a defined approach, and that will help you tap into this talent pool. So keep track of them when they leave. It could be through alumni platform, it could be through personal means or LinkedIn. Keep your business front of mind. Give them a solid reason to return. For a lot of boomerangs, something would have had to have changed for them to want to come back. So, make sure that you do communicate any changes. Update them about every change in the business, especially since COVID. Businesses have changed the way they work, their models, their workplace culture, their benefits, and a lot more than that. So make sure you make your former employees aware of those changes. And use tech. It could be through your ATS, it could be through your alumni platform, it could be things like LinkedIn, but keep your company front of mind with those individuals. On the other hand, all the benefits you get, there are obviously going to be negatives or some reservations when you're looking at rehiring a boomerang. Obviously, you need to understand why they left in the first place. Need to identify why they left. Is there any red flags to them coming back into the organisation? If the roles change since they've left or your culture has evolved, you'll need to reassess whether they will still be a good fit for your organisation. An important one is, will your team be happy with that returner? The last thing you want is to create a difficult team environment. So really ensure that those team members are at least involved in some way in that rehiring process. Are they the best person for a job? So, they might be, a former colleague might be cost effective, easy to rehire, but is there somebody better? So make sure you do explore all other channels as well, because you do want that best person for the job coming back into that role. You would have to look at salary. They might have left for salary. It is likely they have left for a higher salary and probably would want a higher salary from when they come back into the organisation. So, it could be financially costly to your business. But more importantly, it also could damage morale around your other employees in the business. So certainly take that into consideration. I think finally, were they truly a valuable employee in the first place? So those are key factors that you would need to sort of assess before looking at rehiring a boomerang. So I would say in summary, incorporating your offboarding and your reboarding into your overall recruitment strategy, it can pay dividends. And really they should all be given as much time, as much attention, and as much investment as your new onboarding process. Thank you.
Thanks, Andy. That was really good. Just wanted to ask you, your Ricoh Lounge.
Yes.
Fantastic. Is that something that you developed since COVID, or is it since before?
Yeah, no, and as I said, it probably should have been before, but it was on the back of COVID, and I think it got us all thinking actually that the person who actually helped me develop it is actually now on maternity leave, and so we'll be using the platform when they return, and I think it just highlighted that emotional well-being and all those people on furlough not having that channel, and there's a lot of responsibility on managers to keep that communication going, and I think importantly a lot of managers wouldn't have experienced having so many people out of the business at the time, and then really appreciating the probably well-being of bringing them back. So while it was really good and still for those on furlough, it's actually really good for our hiring managers because they have their own community on there. They've got a toolkit on there. It helps them prepare to actually start bringing people back. So it was on the back of COVID, to answer your question, and and it will remain, but it will remain for the wider community now going forward.
Excellent, that's great. And just one final, very quick question. Do you think that boomerangs should have a different hiring process if you're bringing them back in? So different assessments or screening?
No, I think you need to have a fair and transparent process, and they need to go through a fair and transparent process. Obviously, there will be relationships in there, but I think that's when you incorporate other people in the business to actually really, really assess them as well. But I think you do still need to go to that wider market because, boomerangs can be a really good hire, but there are those concerns or reservations, as to why they left, or is there any red flags? So I think they probably may need to go through that robust hiring process. But I think it is important that you need to check with other people in the team, because if it's going to cause issues in your team dynamic, it's going to have the opposite effect and probably cause your attrition to go. So, but I think everyone should be treated fairly, and I think that's where businesses need to really sort of do that. Whatever role it is, it's got to be a transparent and fair process.
Fantastic. That's great. Thanks very much, Andy.
All right.
If you'd like
Thank you very much.
Connect with Andy, please head over to the People tab and make sure that you connect with him, and he can answer any questions that you've got. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy.